So, hi everyone. Thanks for joining. And today we're going to talk about fins and stuff. And who better than not to talk about fins? Somebody making them, David. So I'm going to let David introduce himself and his background.
Okay, great. So I know most people on here anyway, so I'll try not to bore you too much with my background, because most of you probably know anyway. I started spearfishing when I was about 8 years old, so 32 years ago now, which makes me feel quite old. So I was going out with my dad. I had a mid-east-end compressed air gun with a 5-pronger on. I couldn't load it. He had to load it for me, which was quite good fun. So I could just shoot it, give it to him, he load it back. Nice and easy. So yeah, I generally fish obviously in the UK, but I do go to Greece at least once a year and have a good sort of med dive. Been doing that since I think about 2009. Also play underwater hockey for Great Britain. I suppose I'm sort of retired now, unofficially.
We all do.
Yeah. Who knows? May get talked back into it. We'll see. See how the old body holds up. Just fish with and stuff. So mainly I've been fishing with my dad. He's still fishing now. He's in his 70s. But when he's not at home making fins in the workshop, we do let him out occasionally. Although saying that, he can't come out tomorrow because I asked if he wanted to go and he said, "Oh, Mum won't let him out." So it's roles reversed now. That used to be me. I was the one not allowed out. So yeah, obviously Paul on the call there. You've been diving with Paul back when I was a teenager and onwards. He used to take me out
before he could drive.
Hemsbury Head and places like that.
Yeah.
Back in the old days. And then recently been doing a lot of diving with Mickville, mainly out in Greece and then a little bit in the UK, which has been really great learning curve, learning how to fish in the Med, which is completely different.
Yeah.
I'm sure most of you know, to fishing in the UK. So yeah, that's my background on that side. From the fins perspective, I started a company back in 2006, I think it was.
Or did you come to start? What
yeah, so
think,
it was absolutely nothing to do with spearfishing whatsoever. So it was about underwater hockey. I think most people then were using fins called Technisub, which they stopped making. And I was in a position where I needed a new pair of fins, and I was like Googling, trying to find anything I could. And I found a company in Estonia called Special Fins. Purchased a pair of fins from them. A few people said, "Oh, I like them. Can you get some for me?" So from that, I was sort of learning all around about the internet and setting up websites and stuff. So I just knocked up a website myself initially, just to sell them. And that sort of grew a little bit into the spearfishing fins, life-saving fins. And I then got involved with Leader Fins, who were part of Special Fins, I think, at one point. And they split and went their separate ways. And then I mainly then just continued to deal with Leader Fins. And then I suppose we then started to look into potentially making our own. And we actually released our first ones in 2011, I think it was. But we sort of started trialing them and making them and trialing them and making them and going on and on around that sort of cycle from about 2009, I think it was. So behind me there, you can probably just see that fin there, or there is a pair of them, was the original fins that we made up, or the original sort of prototype. So I still use it today. Still actually got the original foot pockets, unbelievably. So yeah, they work really well. And then it's just sort of carried on from there. I suppose we've recently released the new fins. I think a lot of you probably saw the competition, the shorter fins. And then we started getting involved, obviously, with Pathos because we use their foot pockets. So we started selling theirs. And now, recently, we just started selling Alchemy fins, which is the most sort of latest up-to-date ones, I guess.
Okay.
And that's basically where we are now.
So for the foot pockets, so on your blades, you fit only the paddles.
We got the Leaders, their own brand, so we can supply their foot pockets. But yeah, our preference is Pathos foot pockets. And the reason for that is that our blades are designed for that foot pocket. If you start fiddling around and going for different foot pockets with different blades, they're not actually designed to be at work or used with those other foot pockets. The angle's not quite right, it doesn't sit right, and you start to lose transition of power. And then a lot of people don't necessarily appreciate that. They'll just go out, buy a pair of blades and write, "Oh, can you fit them to Pathos foot pockets?" And it's like, well, you can. Oh, oh, the company said you can fit them. Yeah, you can fit them to it, but again, the angle doesn't suit that foot pocket. So at the moment, most, I suppose, spearfishing fins or freediving fins are around the 20 to 23 degree angle. But now a lot of companies are doing 30, 33 degree. But Pathos foot pockets, that's too big an angle for them. And that's why. All right, Dave.
Hi, David.
So yeah, that's one thing that we find. It's just finding, the right tool for the job, I guess.
Okay. So you're talking about the angle. So can you clarify what's this angle is and what the purpose of it?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll grab a blade behind me to try and explain it. So when we talk about angle, it's the angle on the blade where it joins the foot pocket. And the theory is that obviously your foot points down naturally, and the idea is to bring this up. So most fins are between 20 and 23 degree angle and work well with Pathos foot pockets. Alchemy here in particular, they do a 30 degree angle, but they put that with a C4 foot pockets because that's what it's designed for. So you wouldn't put that, which they call it the 30, S30, 30 for obvious reasons. You wouldn't necessarily put that with the Pathos foot pocket. It wouldn't work particularly well. The big angles are designed generally for free divers or very deep spear fishermen, where you're going to have a slightly longer stroke. And they're generally a lot better going up and down rather than across the surface. So what you find now is a lot of companies who specialize or provide spearfishing fins, they're starting to make them a bit shorter. So rather than the standard is probably around about 80 centimeters. Free diving fins are edging towards sort of 90 and even above now, even up to 100 centimeters. But these, for instance, these Alchemy ones are like 70 centimeters, which is a little bit, or 72, I think it is, a little bit shorter. And I think they're finding that they're a lot better on the surface, which spearfishing, unfortunately, we spend a lot of time doing. And yeah, just generally a lot better fin for spearfishing rather than free diving, because these fins generally all started from free diving. And now we're slowly starting to find companies do spearfishing specific and not just pure free diving fins.
Okay.
It's like a lot of the C4 original fins were fantastic for going up and down, but they were awful on the surface because that's what they were designed for.
So you would advise a bigger angle if you do only boat dives, basically?
Or deep dives as well, in particular. I think if you're looking at anything sort of 25 meters and less, I don't think you need to worry about a 30 degree plus angle. I think it's really is for deep, generally for free divers or very deep spear fishermen, people in the med, as you say, just dropping off the boat, jumping down 30, 40 meters, just going up and down, not in any tide, then yes, that's what I'd probably recommend for them guys.
Well, I had the Breyers, so which you might know. And they're quite flat, and I've been spearfishing with this almost flat angle all the time.
Yeah.
And when I went to Australia, I put on the Dive R.
Yeah.
Diver, yeah. And the angle is probably 30 or close to the 30.
Yeah, they're quite long, aren't they, the Dive Rs, I think?
Yeah, they're also quite long, yeah.
Mm.
And I couldn't swim with them. It was impossible. It was just like...
Yeah. It's a completely different stroke. People, a lot of free divers, I think, have been using the 23 degree angle fins. Now going to the 30, they're having to completely change their stroke. I think literally they're lifting their toes up more, they're having a longer stroke, and they're having to really change the way they fin. But obviously, it's more efficient and better for them when they're diving.
Okay. So after, I know, so into fiber, you got the carbon, you got the fiberglass, you got the mixed. So what can you give a bit of what's the range, what's from the least and the better to the best?
So I suppose you sort of start with your plastic or thermoplastic fins, rubber fins, I suppose, which a lot of us probably started with. I imagine you did, Max, as well. I think I had original pair of Cressy's or something like that, and then more Cressy's and Picasso black team before eventually going to a glass fin. There you go. So a rubber pair, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mine were Mares Planner Avanti HP, the blue and black ones, I think, from
Blue and
memory,
black, yeah.
when I was a kid. That was my first pair of fins. So you sort of start with the plastic, and there's absolutely nothing against them. It's a great starter fin. The only thing now you start to question is the more expensive or the better plastic fins, you start then getting into the price range of a cheaper fiberglass fin. And you sort of think, the longevity of the plastic fin is you're then going to potentially go up to a better fin. Why not potentially start with a better one? And the difference is massive between plastic and glass. Mm-hmm. Once you go into glass and you go to your mixes and your full carbons and stuff, the differences are quite small. But it's just that initial jump to a glass fin is where you really, really notice it. So I would suggest anybody sort of starting, if you've got the money, then potentially just go with a fiberglass fin to start with. Because it definitely changes your diving massively, going from a standard plastic fin to glass. And then obviously your carbons, your pure carbons, and then the companies start playing around with different ends and different widths, different lengths and stuff like that, and different stiffnesses. That's another big thing at the moment.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been generally going towards sort of harder fins, and the theory now seems to be changing more along the lines of softer fins are better, and certainly softer foot pockets with the bars that go along the side of the fins. With the theory being the blade will do more work. So with a hard fin and a hard foot pocket, the bend will basically be there. So you're using very little of the blade, but with a softer foot pocket and softer blade, you're then using a lot more. So you're then in theory using less energy. The only time that can go against you is if you're potentially in a lot of tide, you might need a little bit more power. But it swings and roundabouts. It's finding the right fin and the right combination for you, rather than just going for a generic, right, I'll just have a medium in that fin, without actually knowing what you're trying to achieve.
So saying somebody around the 80 kilo, doing a lot of shore dive and on some tidal area, what would be your advice? Just an example.
Along those lines, I think just a standard medium blade would be ideal. Something I suggest now a little bit shorter rather than a big long fin. So something like this, not necessarily these because obviously they are very expensive, but a shorter blade. Okay. I think now for that type of diving.
Like a short one to be able to sneak around a bit easier.
Yeah, a little bit of that, and they're better on the surface as well than longer fins.
Why are they better on the surface?
Because you haven't got a full stroke as such, because your feet are coming out the water. But when you're diving down, you've got that full motion.
Okay.
But when you're on the surface, you generally will fin a little bit shallower. So that's where a shorter fin is generally better to a certain extent. And the weight thing is a starting point. A lot of companies will say, under 75 kilos have a soft blade, between 80 and 90 a medium, and 90 and 100 hard. To a certain extent, that is right. And it gives you a rough idea, but there is a lot more into it than just particularly soft, medium, and hard. And every brand's different.
Yeah, as well. Yeah. So well, the fiberglass is the quality is probably rather the same through all the companies, but carbons, what's the difference?
The difference is generally how they're made. They can use pre-peg, they can be injected. There's so many different variances there. The amount of layers that they use, the directions that they go, whether they go the one direction, they go different directions. There's loads of different things that companies play around with and they'll say is the best way to do it.
Okay.
What works for them. But I think when if a company says, this is the best way, just try and look and show where they can show there's sort of scientific evidence where they can prove that that is the best way of doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on about yeah.
It might sound silly, but has anyone ever used two fins of similar length and style, but had different compounds for stiffness and etc., just to try and find that sweet spot, or do you always have to have the same? Do you see what I mean?
What if you had the exact same fin?
Left stiff fin, right loose fin, or would that not make any difference?
You go around in circles, probably.
Yeah, you would.
I think you'll just probably notice that one leg would fatigue the more. I think it would you don't really want that imbalance in your body. I think with most sports or even like cars and things like that, they always say to have the same tyres, don't they, on the front and the back and stuff like that. So I'd imagine it's the same sort of thing. The only time maybe if you have some sort of injury.
Yeah, that's the only time I saw it in hockey. Guys playing with two different fins, but it's because he had an injury on one leg or one ankle was a bit weaker, so he had a softer blade on one side.
Yeah,
you not have as much strain on the injury and still be able to play. So
yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, I suppose a lot of people generally are stronger with whether their right foot or left foot, whatever it might be. But again, you don't really want that imbalance if you can avoid it.
That's what I was thinking, because everyone's got like a strong side and a weak side naturally, haven't they?
Yeah, but you want to try and, I think, to avoid that if you can. It's like cyclists on their bikes, and now they have like power meters left and right, and they try and make sure that their power is consistent throughout, rather than working particularly hard on one side, which a lot of people generally do when they're cycling.
Yeah, because it's all about symmetry, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different, varieties of carbon out there. The way they make them, they all say they're the best way, and it's horses for courses, really. At the end of the day, you just got to read up on the individual makes, what they say, and unfortunately, a lot of the time you just have to take it, as if it is true, everything that they're saying. But unless companies can actually show the scientific evidence of where they're actually more efficient. I know Alchemy, for instance, say this end is the most efficient, and they patent it to say that it's the dolphin shape.
Okay. What is your range in terms of price of what you're proposing?
So the cheapest are the fiberglass leader fins that start just under £100, I think, from memory, sort of like the high 90s. And then the most expensive now are the Alchemy V3, which are like £450, something like that. I think they are £430. I can't remember the exact price, but yeah, it is quite a big difference. But again, as I say, the difference is once you get into the glasses is smaller compared to the jump from the plastic. That's where you make the big difference. After that, it's small margins.
Yeah. So you meaning in performance, the performance is a big jump from the plastic to any fiber.
Any fiber. Then after that,
in between fiber is just a few %.
Yeah, and then a little bit more once you get to pure carbon and that sort of thing. But again, the differences are then small. It's like small gains as they, like Team Sky or whatever, Team Ineos, whatever they were, the cycling team.
Yeah,
it's that type of thing.
What's the braking rate? Do you have a lot of things coming back? What did you do to improve the braking rate?
I'm gonna have to say, of the pure evolution that we designed, we've only ever had one player brake, and they flew off the back of somebody's boat on the motorway because they left them in the boat.
Oh.
And they come out and they got run over.
Okay. It was you, Dave.
I can't remember who it was. But that was about 5 or 6 years ago. But they let me know the reason that it happened. We get more breakages in the underwater hockey fins than anything.
Yeah,
because they're getting hit all different angles, hitting the side of the pool and stuff like that. But you can't generally generate enough power from spear fishing, I wouldn't have thought, because of the resistance to be able to break them. It's only hitting like walls and stuff like that people break them. They're a lot better than they used to be. I think a lot of people in the early days, going back 15 years or so, they were breaking a lot of their glass fins, but it doesn't seem to, touch wood, happen as much these days.
Sure. I bought my first pair of fins 2002 or 2000, and I was a bit scared they were going to break.
Yeah,
but they're still there. The blade, the foot pocket's gone, but the blades are still there. Fit them on another foot pocket, but they
exactly.
But
that's what they're designed to do, isn't it? They're designed to flex. The thing that will break them is if you got your fins laid on the floor and you just drop your weight belt on them or something like that. That's what they don't like. Any sort of impact. Say in the water
at the tip as well.
Yeah, the tip.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask, "Oh, how do you travel with them?" And I've got like a big dive bag that I can actually fit all my diving equipment in. It's about 90 centimeters long, and I put my fins in, and I literally just wrap them in a towel, wetsuit above, clothes below it, and then travel with them like that. And then the bag will flex, but so will the fins, and that's what they're designed to do. So I've never, touch wood again, had an issue with fins breaking, even in transit.
the fins you're selling, are they coming with a bag or with something like that?
No, bags are all completely separate. It's we have tried to have our own bags made, but it's quite difficult in the UK and to actually find companies who will make and supply bags, put logos on and stuff like that to make it affordable. Again, you start then looking into China and importing them and stuff like that, and it's not something I really want to go down if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
More so at the moment.
Yeah, more so at the moment. But also sometimes I don't know how many pairs you're selling every year.
It's difficult to gauge because we've got so many different sports now, because we've got obviously your free diving and spearfishing fins, we've got underwater hockey, life-saving fins we also sell a lot of as well. A lot of life-saving clubs will buy sort of like 15 fins at a go. So It is quite a lot. It does add up. But yeah, the biggest thing I would say is if when it comes to selecting a fin is to actually speak to someone, whether it be myself but speak to the people that actually know a little bit about it and what's best suited to you, rather than say just going for a website and going, oh, they look nice.
Yeah,
they're shiny and new.
That's right. I'm just going to come back on the food bucket. Do you do any open heel food buckets?
Not on spearfishing fins, no.
No. Okay.
But we do on underwater hockey and life-saving fins. I suppose, obviously you're used to wearing them. It's a different kicking point, isn't it, when you wear a strap fin? All of a sudden you're kicking, I find, sort of like halfway down your foot, sorry.
Yeah.
Rather than your full ankle. And it's a completely different motion. I've tried them in longer fins, but I personally didn't like it.
Okay.
Because I'm quite, when it comes to like the fins that we supply, I'm very religious in the fact that I want to have tried them myself before selling them.
Okay.
Rather than just get them in and sell every brand that's potentially available. It just makes it easier for me to then to say what I think will suit other people, what suits me, and that sort of thing.
All right. So they just all go and you properly test them in real condition or in the pool.
A bit of both.
Okay.
But unfortunately, in the current climate, it's been very difficult on both fronts. Yeah. So, like these ones, for instance, they've only been out a month, so they will be tested, but won't be till next week, or maybe probably next week now.
Okay.
Do you have like a table describing what each of your fins would be appropriate for use-wise, and is there like because you speak about the different types of fins being good for on the surface and good for diving down, do you have like a content table for describing that on the different fins or not?
Not really. Again, it's so vast. It's not necessarily just the individual fin that you'd be more suited to something else. It's the stiffness. So it'd be quite difficult, I think, to put into some sort of form of table, I think, to describe it. Again, I'd prefer somebody just pick up the phone and just sort of have a chat with them and just say,
so there's too many combinations for it to be set out like that, and it was best just to chat with someone, yeah?
Yeah, definitely, because there's so many different, say, varieties. And again, it depends the type of diving that you do. It's like, if you're just going to potentially just diving in under 5 meters, then you don't want a 95 centimeter long fin. You just want a nice short fin that's going to give you that little bit of punch in the shallower water and across the surface. Yeah, happy to talk you through whatever the type of diving that you do and what you're looking to get out of them, basically. But yeah, you'll notice a big difference changing from a plastic to glass, and it's like one of those things, you won't go back. Once you've done it, you'll be like, oh, would never
I'm
wear
my
them
worst
again.
enemy. I always scrimp, mate. I'm a scrimper.
No worries.
Dave, I will let him try a pair of mine first, because I've got 2 carbon pairs.
Yeah,
and I'll do the sales thing for you.
Cheers, Dave.
Dave, I want to ask you about these new shorter ones.
Yep.
I don't know. I came in a little bit late. Maybe you've talked about them. Just tell me about them. These new rounded-ended fins. I'm just
so
interested.
The theory behind them is they're designed for sort of shallow water fishing. Yeah. So I would say, up to like 15 meters, calling that shallow, but in and around the rocks, the idea, but we've got some like rubber edging across the end of the fins, mainly to protect them, but also, and if you whack a rock or whatever, it does make a bit of sound, just to sort of dampen that a little bit. A shorter fin, I suppose it's mainly designed for on the surface.
Right. That's,
That's the theory. So people mooching around.
How much shorter are they than the conventional size fins?
Around about, they are 60 centimeters, and a normal fin is around about 20 centimeters difference.
Not a great deal then.
Not a great deal, but then these here, these alchemies, these are 8 centimeters shorter than our original ones, and I didn't think that would be a lot, but when you put it up against them,
Jesus,
it's actually quite noticeable.
That's a lot.
So you do that again, or even more, you're actually a little bit more, you're looking at around about there.
Right.
If you can see that.
Yeah, okay.
So it does actually make it quite a short fin, but not really, really short.
Basically designed for shallow water rock fishing.
Yeah, which a lot of people in this country do.
I think a lot of us do it.
Yeah. The amount of fish that we find in the shallows.
So it could be a very good fins for a beginner.
Yeah, potentially for a beginner, but I Leader Fins made a pair back in 2009, and I was using them in Greece to 20 odd meters, absolutely fine, and they're about the same sort of size as what these are, and it was no problem at all, even at that sort of depth.
Just out of curiosity, to me they look like a nice marriage between a long spearfishing fin and the scuba diver. So I can imagine they give you quite a nice stability and still a bit of power when you need it.
Yeah, a bit of everything. The only thing I would be a little bit wary of is where they're shorter. If you go for a hard blade, there's not going to be a lot of give in them, because you've got the bit that would normally bend, you've just lost 20 centimeters off. So if it was me, I would edge towards either a medium or a soft, but with a soft foot pocket, and try and let the blade do as much as you can. We will sell them in hard for those who think they can do it, but I personally wouldn't.
To me, they would be more of an advantage when I'm doing diving in the winter rather than the summer, because I'm diving a lot shallower. Because of the coldness of the water. So that's something I would probably buy, for that, and no other reason. I certainly wouldn't use them in the summer. For me, it's just, type of diving I do. Well, like yourself, Dave. It could be 5 meters, it could be 20 meters. So I wouldn't want to be changing between the two. I think I would probably be sticking to my longer ones in the summer and the short ones in the winter.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, it's all down to the individual, how they dive. Like yourself, you go out in deeper water. A lot of people don't, and they just stay in shallow all the time. So they'd be well suited to them all year round.
I'm sorry to bring something else to the table, but just literally kind of came up with a question. So talking about diving summer and winter, lots of quite a big range of temperature on a fin, probably let's say a carbon, because I have a carbon. But how much does the difference in temperature interfere with the fin itself?
Very little to probably nothing. The only fins you'll notice it probably will be plastic fins, where they get more rigid
a lot more
in the cold versus softer in the summer. But carbon, they're made generally at like 220 degrees and stuff like that, I think. So you are looking at a fin or something that's designed to go to the extremes, I guess. But yeah, it shouldn't change too much. You maybe a subtle change, but not a lot.
I don't think so. There is any noticeable change into the performance regarding the temperature.
No. I know I can't stay down so long when it's cold. my performance changes.
I just wanted to
go ahead, Alex.
Ask, so I understand you're dealing quite a lot with fins, but any other things you're working with apart from fins?
Yeah, we do supply the Pathos range of guns as well. So that's another option. I quite often forget. But yeah, we do the Pathos guns. Which
You're not doing any wetsuits anymore, Dave?
We did try making our own, not making our own, but getting them in to be our own, but it didn't really happen. I can still, if anybody wants a Pathos wetsuit, I can get them. That's no problem. I may look at potentially doing some sort of package going forward where you can, I don't know, a pair of fins, a gun, and a wetsuit maybe. But I'll it's something it's on my to-do list.
Do you export some of your fins?
What, to other countries?
Yeah.
Yeah, sell them all over the place. Countries I've never even heard of before. All over. Sell quite a lot to America. Obviously, I've heard of America, but Australia, Korea, a lot to South Korea.
Okay. For the freediving one, or the spearfishing one, or the hockey one?
Mainly for America, a bit of both the hockey and spearfishing fins. Korea has all been spearfishing or freediving fins. They do a lot in the pool there, I think.
Yep.
It's not, obviously. So, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, all over the place.
That's
some I'd quite like to hand deliver. Some of the places sound amazing.
That's pretty cool. So that's your full-time job?
No. I do it part-time. So I work as a IT consultant outside of that. But obviously furloughed at the moment, as a lot of people are.
Yeah, that's what you tell us.
Yeah. Got to pay for the house in the Bahamas somehow. I wish.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, my dad does all the building of the fins. Now he's retired.
Okay.
He's keep him in the workshop, keep him busy.
David, is there any specific animal which they take the inspiration for making fins from? Because you know when they design a lot of things, they take inspiration from nature.
Dolphin for that one.
Is there what else has been used before as inspiration for it?
Well, they, to be honest, those round ends came from, I think a lot of people probably remember them, the old H2Salt plastic fins from years ago with the rounded ends. Max, you probably remember them. I think they still make them, don't they? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but the thing I find with these ones, they were so heavy.
Oh yeah.
So heavy because I had this one. I had these ones as the first pair, and then after I moved into the Cressy, it's still plastic, but to the Cressy Gara, and the weight difference. I had to put 1 more kilo on my belt. It was just like the big difference in weight, and also the big difference you find when you go to carbon is the weight.
Because the weight's massively different.
The Pathos foot pocket is super light, and you put a blade also light on it. It's just like you barely feel the weight of your fins.
Yeah.
When I find with plastic, it's always the same thing. It's heavy.
Yeah, like wearing a bucket.
I think the Pathos foot pockets are. You would have a job to better.
Yeah.
You know, they are just so good, so comfortable, so soft, and
so light as well.
With the blades, it's just I've been using them now for 3 years. I wouldn't use anything else.
Was that 33 years, Dave?
Thank you, Paul.
Sorry.
Get them on a free prescription, Dave.
Yeah. Probably the same one you're on, Tone. Hey, you're older than me, so shut up.
Oh dear.
No, they're just something else. Those fins. I've not regretted ever buying them from you, Dave. Ever.
Great. That's good to hear.
No, and I will let Matt use my spare pair, and I'm sure after he's used them, he will want to buy a pair from you. Don't forget to send me my 10%.
Get you a beer.
Oh, please.
Or a cider, I think, more likely, isn't it?
Yeah, more likely. Yeah.
I might need a pair for hockey.
So do I. I need a new hockey pair as well. Watch this space on that front.
Do what?
I will have a new pair of hockey fins, hopefully. Soon.
Oh yeah. All right, guys. Thank you, David, for coming and talking about your fins.
Thank you very much for having me.